Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the second of today's lectures. I'm glad you're here with me. Now, we're going to get to a little bit of more what you might actually be interested in, which is uh, things about this course. What is pre-AP Bio? What is general bio? What am I going to be learning? And what is my teacher going to expect of me? These are all great questions. So I'll start with the thing that many of you would be concerned with the most, and that would be grading. So I'm a firm believer that having a high degree of industriousness, that is, being able to get up every day and do something that is maybe unpleasant or requires some self sacrifice, is a skill that is something that will lead to lifelong success. It's just the way it is. You want to have a healthy marriage, you have to give to that marriage every day. You want to have a healthy job, you have to give to that job every day, whether you feel like it or not. And so the ability to, well, sacrifice every day a little bit of yourself to gain something in the future is absolutely something that is important. It's a behavior that I want to foster in you and encourage for you because it is a lifelong skill that, if you can master, will pretty well guarantee to some extent that your life will not be an abject disaster, right? And so 60% of your grade comes with daily assignments. Okay. Now, a step up from that is critical thinking, which is around labs and projects that I'll be giving. I'll have a lot of mini labs, I'll have a lot of data analysis type labs, I'll have some group projects that I'll have you work on. And the reason that I have those is I want to encourage critical thinking, which is very necessary in the study of science. And so that'll be 12% of your overall grade. Now, another 10% will come from reading assignments. Reading in science is actually quite a essential skill. One of the things that you do anytime you do any kind of research is a literature review, where you go into journals and you see what research has already been done and you summarize it and you write about it. This is a huge part of writing a research proposal and getting funding for your research. And so reading is a very important scientific skill. It's oftentimes underemphasized. I think it should be its own category because I believe it's really important. And so I'm going to reward you for that by making it 10% of your overall grade. Now, 10% is going to come from smaller quizzes and module tests. For my general bio class, it'll be a test every module. For my pre-AP students, there'll be a test every 2 modules. And then there'll be frequent quizzes as well, which I know you're super excited about. So be aware. Yeah, any day you might get a quiz. And then finally, I'm going to have larger unit tests that show that you have retained what you've learned in each chapter, each module, and have committed it to more long-term memory and incorporated it into your knowledge set. That's a much harder type of test, and so I'm going to make it worth only 8% of your overall grade. So if you want to have an A plus, you better show up to work every day, put some real effort into the critical thinking assignments, make sure you don't slough off my reading assignments, make sure you do good on my smaller tests and quizzes, and don't forget to constantly review using spaced repetition, which I'll talk about a little bit later, for those bigger unit tests. Okay, so how will I communicate with you? What are the ways that I'm going to make sure you know what you need to know? Well, first off, I'll do my best to speak clearly and to not be ambiguous with the things that I say, so I'll make classroom announcements. I'll give you feedback through formative. This is a assessment platform, not a grading platform, and so what I give you here will be raw and kind of unadulterated. I'll be as brutally honest with you as I can, and the grade that is informative will not be the grade that I put in Power School, is why I'm saying that. I'll let you see very clearly where you're lacking in this platform, and then I will sanitize your grade a little bit to make it more palatable and better reflect where I think you should be. So there's going to be some flexibility there, but I'll do my best to be brutally honest in this platform. But keep in mind that the percentage or the number of points you get in here will not be your overall grade in Power School. I will communicate when things are due and when they're assigned through Canvas Calendar. I'll have a list of the assignments in each assignment. I'll have a link to formative for the assignment, and I will do my best to really telegraph long in advance when your assignments are going to be due. And then finally, um, you should have an email account, a school email account, and I expect you to check that once or twice a week and to keep it kind of empty of junk so that you can get emails, because I consider email an official form of communication that I reserve the right to send you messages about. So um, I might not send you something every week, but it is a method of communication that you will be held responsible for. So make sure you check your email somewhat regularly if you can. That would be good. So I'm going to say this twice, actually. How should you communicate with me? The first way you should communicate with me is asking questions. this is this is an important life skill as well as a scientific skill. It's called being able to advocate for yourself, self-advocation, being a self-advocate. And asking questions is a form of self-advocacy. It's making sure you have what you need to succeed, right? And it's actually a lot harder than people think to get past that shyness or that place where you feel stupid for asking a question. Um, as far as I'm concerned, science is all about asking questions, and the best science only happens when you learn to ask the right questions. And you'll never learn to ask the right questions if you don't get practice at asking questions. So, yes, ask questions. And as the previous slide says, ask questions either in person or by email. Though both of those are great ways to communicate with me. If your English is not so great, or you feel a little embarrassed about talking to a teacher in person, which is fine and I get it, feel free to send me an email. Asking in person is wonderful too, though. It'll give me a chance to learn your voice and to learn who you are better. So I would actually prefer that, but I understand that, teachers can be intimidating, and it can be embarrassing to ask questions in front of other students. So if you want to shoot me an email, that's fine too. I would recommend you not try to communicate to me through formative. It's a great assessment platform. It's a wonderful tool. I really like using it. It helps me monitor how you're doing on assignments because I can watch what you're doing in real time. But in terms of you communicating with me, like questions or feedback, it just doesn't have a great interface on the teacher side of things. And so an email will absolutely be responded to. If you shoot me a note informative, I will probably miss it. So please don't do that. All right. Can I have food and drink in the classroom? No, absolutely not. No, no, it's bad. Bad. We don't want that. Bad, 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 bad. Okay, maybe it's not quite that bad, but only water is allowed in my classroom, and there is absolutely no food or drink allowed in the lab for any reason at any time. That's a standard lab policy for every lab that I've ever worked in or learned in. So don't be surprised, especially if you bring a water into my lab. That's a written warning, just because it's a safety violation. And if I see anything in my classroom that's not water, I reserve the right to give you a written warning on the spot. It's not allowed in the handbook. It's not allowed in my class. This is your first and last warning. I will definitely hit you with the whammy hammer if I see something other than water. All right, computer use. Computer use. I love computers. I love technology. As a visually impaired person, I have used technology as a crutch my entire life. And so I'm actually a big advocate of using technology. As you can see, I'm doing motion capture and I'm giving you a video lecture. So clearly I want to use technology. But you shouldn't be playing video games. You shouldn't be watching random YouTube videos. You shouldn't be on social media. Ideally, you've come to my classroom and to school in general to learn. And I highlight this because if you come to school every day, your entire high school career, with the attitude, I want to learn something today. And I'm going to, at the end of the day, I want to have 10 things I can say that I have learned. Like make that a daily goal and maybe journal it every day or go online and post the 10 things that you say that you can actually say that you learned that day, right? If you make that your goal, by the time you leave high school, you will be a better, more capable, more intelligent person than you are right now. And I know the cliche is you're a perfect little unicorn and you're wonderful just the way you are, but the truth is you're not as nearly as good as you could be, right? And I think if you stop and think about it, you already know that. You already know that you don't have a higher education. You haven't been to university. You've never had a job. You've you are still a pretty young student and you're pretty low in terms of what you can be in the future. And I want you to become something in the future that is better than you are now. I want you to grow. I want you to thrive. I want you to sacrifice in the here and now to create the person that you can be. And so I expect you to show up to my class every day to learn something. And, it took me a long time to get to that point myself. So, like, I will do my best to help you with this and encourage you to this end through grades. I won't hate you if you don't, but I think you can be better than you are. And I think you know that you can be better than you are. And that's what I want for you. I want you to show up every day to my class to learn something. And I would love it if by the end of class every day, you could come to me and say, Mr. Lundy, I learned this, this, and this, right? Two or three things. And that would be fantastic. That would be a great goal to have for yourself. And as a teacher, that would make me super happy because I would know that you are putting in the time and effort to grow. So come to my class and come to learn. And then the rest of these, they won't be a problem. Okay, assignments. I will have a lot of assignments. I like to give a lot of small grades because I like to give a lot of small opportunities for both feedback for you, so you can kind of gauge where you are, and so that one bad grade doesn't just tank your overall grade, right? So I have a lot of assignments, and I have what's called a pseudo flipped classroom model. This means that I'll have some assignments that are due in class, and then some flex assignments that you could probably finish in class or you could do as homework, depending on how you want to manage your time. Because, you're becoming young adults, and one of the skills you need to master is time management. Now, for my freshmen who are taking this class, my ninth graders, obviously, if your grade drops below a certain level, I'm going to step in and try to nudge you in the right direction. But for my 11th graders who are in the phasing out of the general bio, well, I expect you to be able to do some real time management because you're older students and you should be able to handle getting it done now or getting it done later and prioritizing things the way that you need, because that's what grown people do and that's a skill you need to have. So if an assignment's late, let's say it's due at the end of class and you don't get it done by the end of class, that's 10% off, right? And then you have till the next class to finish it. If you don't finish it by the next class, then it's a zero, okay? And so any assignment by default, unless I specifically say otherwise, that's not due in class, which I will write on the board and say out loud and try to communicate as clearly as I can. Any assignment that's not due in class will be due at the start, not the end, the start of the next class. And that will be in a pattern that you have the entire year. That will be my expectation. That will not change. And again, unless I say something very specifically like, this is a big project, it's not due until next week, right? Assume the assignment is due at the start of next class. That's the default. So if it's not due in class, it's due at the start of next class. And then you only have one extra class, if it's late, to get it turned in. One last thing of note that I want to say, if you have a problem, and everyone's going to have a problem at some point, and you can't get the assignment done in time. You're in class, something happens, you need to communicate with me before the assignment is due. When you do that, you empower me as your teacher to say, oh, there's a need here. how can I meet this need so that my student succeeds, right? This is like me telling my boss that I can't accomplish a task on time. It empowers my boss to say, oh, okay, my employee is doing the best, they have a problem, I need to facilitate their success because that's my job. And then they can do something about it, right? But if you wait until after the assignment's due to tell me, well, you didn't allow me to step in and help you. You um, basically waited until past the deadline and are trying to get out of the consequences of that. And that's not a good life skill. That's not the way you should handle things in life. And while I recognize in life sometimes there's just no other way to do it, the habit that I want to instill in you through this exercise is managing your time so that if something goes wrong, you can communicate immediately to your superiors there's a problem before it's too late, right? This is a life skill. You can use it with your wife, you can use it with your boss. This is just really good habit. So, yes, if you have a problem and you tell me before an assignment's due, I will do everything I can to help you. Okay, everything reasonable that I can do, even extending the deadline, I'll do my best to help you if you tell me before time, before the deadline. If you come to me after, that's real sad. You're going to get a zero and it's going to stay. That's just how that's going to work. So make sure you communicate with me, not communicate me, communicate with me like a responsible individual, and you will be rewarded. Wait until after, like someone who is irresponsible, and you will not be rewarded. So hopefully you get what I'm saying, and we'll not have an issue. All right. So what are you going to be learning? I know this is a big question for you guys because, well, this is what the class is about. Well, we'll start out with Unit 0, Chapter 1, looking at the study of science and life. Just because I understand that a lot of you will have never had a science class before. Some of you will be transfer students, and you'll need a little bit of an introduction. So for my chemistry class and for this class, I always have an introductory unit, and that's what this will be. Just kind of an intro to science, an intro to biology, not too bad. Then we'll jump right into ecology, which looks at things like biodiversity, ecosystems, population ecology, all very interesting things. And you'll have a test after Unit 1 for pre-AP, and you'll have a test in between the 4 chapters or 4 units of ecology, and then you'll have a unit test. You'll have a unit test after the pre-AP component. So right in here will be a unit test over Module 1 through 5, right there. The pre-AP component will be something from College Board. I don't actually have access for it at the making of this video, but I'm sure it will be challenging and fun. Well, challenging at least, and hopefully fun. And we'll work through that. And that should finish up quarter 1 pretty easily. And then quarter 2, we will start with the cell. And we'll work through things like the chemistry of life, which is foundational to understanding cells. Then we'll look at cell structure, cellular energetics, and finally we'll end with cell reproduction, mitosis and meiosis. Then we'll have a pre-AP component and a final exam, and that will finish off the first semester of the year. Next, we will have a unit on genetics. It'll be a little bit shorter, and then you'll have a pre-AP component. And then towards the end of quarter 3, we will start a unit on evolution, and that'll actually be a little bit of a longer unit, and then we'll have a pre-AP component. Then we'll have a unit on intelligent design, and we may have some more after this on the diversity of life. Like we might look at bacteria and viruses and a few other things. But this is the first year that I'm teaching this, so I'm really not sure how it's going to play out. And I'm only going to commit to getting up to intelligent design and a pre-AP component and a final exam. So expect that there could be a good deal more after this. It just depends on how far we get, how fast. So that right now is the general plan. All right, so after school hours, when can you come talk to me after school? Generally speaking, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays are the days that I am available to stay after school, and I'm super happy to do so. Just let me know that you want to come. I have a family at home that I actually like, and I have a good work set up at home. And so, unless I know that somebody is coming to come chat with me, which again, I'm more than happy to do at any time, I reserve the right to leave on the 4 o'clock bus if no one has showed up to my class or I have no emails, right? So if you show up to my class at 3:20, 3:30, hey, Mr. Lundy, I need to talk to you. Hey, I'll stay till 4:30, 5 o'clock, no problem, especially Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I don't get an email and no one shows up and it's 3:50, I'll probably pack up and leave. So again, I'm more than happy for you to come hang out, ask questions, just use my classroom as a study hall, whatever you need. It's not a problem. I just need to know. And if I don't know, then I reserve the right to go. Okay, now this is a question that some of you, especially native English speakers, are going to have. And it's a fair question. Will I be using video lectures? And for my general classes, my pre AP classes, which will have a lot of ELS students, people whose first language is not English, yes, I will have all of my lectures on videos and I will have them as assignments with questions that go along with them to make sure that you paid attention. I do understand that for a minority of students, this actually doesn't work all that well. And that's very unfortunate, and I apologize. But over the last 12 years teaching here in China, I've noticed that I have about three broad groups of students. I have one group of students who's gone to academy, has already learned everything that I'm teaching, and are bored to tears. And they distract the people, a small group in the middle who is actually trying to pay attention. And then I have another rather large group of English language learners who have no idea what I'm saying. Or they're picking up very small bits and pieces, but they're too embarrassed to say, Mr. Lundy, could you please repeat that? Could you please repeat that? Um, because it's embarrassing when a teacher's talking to sit there and ask them to repeat themselves. It's just not a comfortable thing to do. And so I think most of my students benefit either by being able to play the video in double time if you're a native English speaker and get through it really, really quick, or play it in 1/5 time, or I'm sorry, 1/2 time if you're an English language learner, maybe with the subtitles on, so that you can um, get more out of it without having to say, hey, Mr. Lundy, can you please repeat that? So it solves a couple of problems. And it's really true that when people have their headphones on, it's much harder to distract them. So for those people who don't come to school to learn and all they want to do is distract other people because they're not actually there to learn, it makes it harder for them to do that when everyone else has their headphones on. So it solves a lot of problems. It does create some problems, and I acknowledge that. I'm sorry for that. But I think it solves more problems than it creates for this particular situation. So, yes, my lectures will definitely be on video. Okay, so other things to know. You should always speak English. That's our school's policy. Your parents are spending a lot of money to send you to learn English at this school. So I expect you to, as much as humanly possible, always speak English. Never have a cell phone on your person in my class for any reason. They have been banned. They're supposed to be locked up. If I see one, it's mine and you get a written warning. Um, oh yes, dress for the cold. You should do that. If at all possible, I will make my classroom as cold as possible. So bring a sweatshirt, bring a hoodie, bring a sweater. Be prepared that in the winter the heat won't be on and in the summer the AC will be blasting. I like it cold. Don't fail tests or quizzes. I do not give retakes. That's important to know. I know that a lot of you are coming from middle school where the teachers are very lenient and they give a lot of retakes. Um, there's no retakes in heart surgery, there's no retakes in rocket design. You get it right and the person lives, or you get it wrong and the rocket explodes. And that's kind of the nature of science. There's not a lot of room for redos or oopsies, and so I'm pretty intolerant and do not give retakes. Make sure you get at least 7 hours of sleep every night. I read a lot of scientific literature, and almost weekly, a new article comes out talking about how sleep increases your ability to learn, or increases your cognitive ability, or how lack of sleep diminishes your cognitive ability. Sleep is incredibly important, whether we like it or not. And as a teenager, you should probably be getting closer to 10 hours of sleep. Honestly, that's about right for a person whose brain is developing as rapidly as yours. But absolutely 7 hours should be the bare minimum. And again, if you're not going to be able to make it to my class or make a deadline, tell me before it's due, so I can help you, and we can do something about it. Because if you tell me after, it is over. You are KIA. It's not going to happen. If you do those things, all those things, then I will be a very happy teacher, and that will hopefully make you have, or help you have, a happier year. So thank you so much for listening. I have a little bit more for you in another lecture to come, but for now, I have some more questions for you. Thanks for listening.